What is up, Sean O'Connell?
That looks really cool. I love all the cutouts in the back.
Oh, I had to do it upright for you today. What's up, buddy?
Good to see you, Jeff.
Good to see you too. Congratulations on your second book.
Third book.
Third book? Good God, I can't even keep track of how many books you write.
It's
Uh,
insane. I'm done.
It's
I'm
so,
done for a while now.
I was going to say, I've been a critic for over 25 years, and the only thing I haven't done in my career, you name it, I've done it all. I've never published. I don't know if I have
Yeah.
the discipline, if I'm just lazy or I can't think what to talk about, but so it must be there are times when you just don't want to write and with nothing to do with your book, but then how do you motivate yourself?
Yeah, I really did need to it was really fun to have something else to work on, when to finish work and to have something to tinker with. Um, but it's tough, man. It's tough. It needs to be something that justifies like the length of a book. I've had a couple of ideas for a follow-up for like a fourth one, and each one just feels like thin, like it's not so many feel like, oh, that could just be a magazine cover. So I don't know what the next one will be, if there is going to be a next one, but we'll.
Well, you have to have passion to write a book. And, listen to this title. So Bruce Willis celebrating the cinematic legacy of an unbreakable Hollywood icon. Could you
Yeah.
figure out a longer title? Because that seems kind of short,
Yeah, but I learned my lesson with the first book. It was called Release the Snyder Cut, and unless
right?
people knew like what that was, I don't know if it was going to leap off the page. And then the second one I called With Great Power, and it was about Spider-Man and his Hollywood history. And I thought, I'm going to stop getting cute with these titles. It's just going to be called Bruce Willis. Bang, there he is. There's a picture of him on the cover. If you like Bruce Willis, hopefully you pick it up.
Yeah. Well, what's the connection to Bruce Willis? Because every time an author has something on a passion like this, what's your connection to him? Why do you feel he needed his own story told about his films?
So you know this more than anyone else. Like as a film critic, you get asked all the time, like what's your favorite movie? Oh, what's the best movie you've ever seen? And my textbook answer for that one was Die Hard, forever kind of thing. And after a while, it switched and it became the two Avengers movies, Infinity War and Endgame. I thought that they were so impressive. But I've always loved the Die Hard franchise, and then because of that, I kind of really loved Bruce and his career. And um, I followed him through the action genre. I followed him through his forays into other categories. And when he announced his retirement, it really hit me, in a big way of like, well, we're losing something really special here. We're losing a level of movie star that I just don't think we have anymore. And I'm not quite sure, how many more of them we're going to get moving forward because the industry is so different. But you lived through all of his career, his decades of his career. People went to go see his movies because his name was above the title, and he
Absolutely.
tried it all.
And
He
it's funny because going through this interview, preparing for this interview, I was going through all of his films, and there were so many that I forgot he was in
yeah
or he did. But then, of course, Die Hard.
yeah
I mean, if I had to choose one cinematic moment, maybe you do a top 10 list or even a top five list, seeing Die Hard for the first time, you came out, it was the most incredible cinematic experience that I've had, one of the best of my life, because we've never seen anything like that before. Then everything
right.
copied on it. Everything was the pitch. Die Hard on this, Die Hard on a bus, Speed, Die Hard, everything was Die Hard. So I think that he just that
It was.
stands the test of time. So choosing that film, I totally agree with you. I think it's one of the greatest films of all time.
And it shouldn't have happened. Like there were so many people who
Yeah,
were considered for John McClane before him. At the time when Bruce did that movie, he was the comedian from Moonlighting. Who was going to accept him in an action role? It's not that far fetched to say that it would almost be like Tom Hanks from Bosom Buddies, getting dropped into an action role. It's just that Bruce had that kind of relatability, that blue collar sense to him, that we could almost project ourselves onto him as an action star. He wasn't Schwarzenegger and he wasn't Stallone, and that's what I thought made him really interesting and easy to follow.
and one of my first junkets ever was somewhere in 1999, and it was with Fox, and it was on the studio lot, and I saw Nakatomi Plaza. I couldn't believe it. I'm screaming on the bus, "Hey, everyone look at," and nobody understood that was the Die Hard building, right? That's what you called it. So,
Yeah.
so it's just the first experience with that building in this movie is fantastic. But did you speak to anyone special? Because when you're doing research like this, I know you have a lot of with the internet, you have a lot of interviews, you have a lot of interviews that's on the radio and television and junkets. But did you talk to anyone special, or did you seek out anyone to get a personal experience?
Well, I kind of knew going into this process that I wasn't going to get a chance to interview Bruce for the book or
Yeah.
anyone in his inner circle. I kind of started diving into it after his announcement of the diagnosis, and so I knew the family would be really protective of him, as they should be. You know, I didn't expect him to be open with somebody who was seeking an interview. Because of my position at Cinema Blend, I've been lucky enough to get several interviews with a lot of the directors who worked with Bruce, you know, over the years. And one of the things that speaking to them specifically, like an M. Night Shyamalan or Quentin Tarantino, who worked with them on Pulp Fiction, and then Ryan Johnson, who worked with them on Looper, is how much he stepped up for them, you know, when they were really early in their career and didn't have the pull, you know, with the studios to necessarily make the types of movies that they wanted to make. And in each of those cases, Terry Gilliam being another example of somebody who worked with Bruce on 12 Monkeys, talked about he really ran studio interference and, you know, believed in their script, believed in their unusual ideas, and almost let them continue to make the movies. And this is why I guess when I talk about the fact that like we don't have anybody who really does this anymore, because things have become so cookie cutter and things have become so safe. And I think what I admired about Bruce is that he would find big swing directors and sort of go after them and give them a chance to tell their movie. And it didn't always work. You know, it might have led to Brian De Palma making, you know, Bonfire of the Vanities, which was a miscalculation on every level. You know, all those people shouldn't have been involved. But I understand why Bruce signed up for it. You know, it's a hit novel and the cast looked great. It's De Palma. Why wouldn't he try to do it? So, you know, talking to those directors and finding out how much his collaborations meant to them, I thought was really important and special.
Great book too, The Devil's Candy about Bonfire of the Vanities. Ever read that book?
Yeah, it's
Oh,
another good
that's
one.
just that's when you just jumps off the page, man. I love that book. Just to kind of go back and forth here. Just some of your favorite moments from a Bruce Willis film. You know, some he's also made some of the worst films, you know, I can imagine. Hudson Hawk comes to mind, right? I've given it a
Yeah.
chance. I've watched it many times, but I have a great one of my favorite Bruce Willis moments is in that film where he's singing Swing on a Star, you know, with
Yeah.
Danny Aiello. I just love that. I mean, I just watch that over and over. So do you have any favorite moments out of his films that you
I love throughout Death Becomes Her that sort of high pitched scream that he lets out every time something surprises him. I just think he can be so funny. In Blind Date, there's a moment at the end of the movie where he's charming Kim Basinger. He's showing up at her wedding and interfering. And he flashes that movie star, you know, smirk that he kind of had. That was one of the first times that it was like captured on film. And I was like, gosh,
right?
there's a movie star right there. You know, any scene that he has with Haley Joel Osment in The Sixth Sense is just, to me, there's something fascinating about him as he grew and evolved in his career, where he started to explore sort of a minimalist approach and quiet. You know, he would do it in 12 Monkeys opposite Brad Pitt, who was kind of chewing scenery. But his work with Haley Joel Osment in The Sixth Sense is kind of the one that I think deserves the Oscar consideration. You know, I really am stunned he didn't get a nomination for that movie. Um, and you know, there's nothing that's ever going to beat him wrapping the fire hose around his waist and jumping from the top of Nakatomi Plaza. I hate to keep going back to Die Hard, but it's seminal. You know, it's
Yes.
him standing up there and being so terrified to jump and promising himself in the moment, like, I will never go up in a tall building ever again. And he leaps. That's what all of us would do, you know, in that situation. It made him an everyman hero. And then he milked that for 40,
Yeah.
you know, 40 years after that.
Oh, absolutely. The only two times in my career that I got to sit in front of him was one was for Unbreakable,
Yeah.
and the other
Oh,
one was
nice.
for The Kid. So those were the
Okay.
two I did. And The Kid almost never happened because I was there. They cut me from him and I went and complained. And it was the publicist, his personal publicist says, Bruce is never going to speak to anyone from Las Vegas. Can you believe that? Now, this was
Why?
20 something years ago. Well, Vegas isn't what it is now. Back, you know, back in the 90s, it was trying to be family friendly and it was just a disaster. But I'll never
Okay.
forget that. We still got an interview with him, but it was a long time ago that I got to sat in front of him. But my favorite film of his, you know, I was looking through reading all these different chapters in your book and be reading acquainted with some of his films, but I love 16 Blocks. I think that's his best performance. Not only that, Richard Donner and but that movie just and Mos Def. I mean, I just love how that movie unfolds almost like in real time, you know.
It
So,
absolutely does.
but that's my favorite performance of his.
It has so many qualities of like a Western also, but
Yes.
set in a modern and such a simple premise, you know, it's just move this prisoner from point A to point B and how many things can go wrong in between them. And also, Bruce's character in that movie has a hearing impairment, and is old, and of course he's in that situation where he shouldn't be there that day. That Bruce loved playing the hero that just like was trapped in a bad situation that he wasn't supposed to be in, and how is he going to overcome the obstacles? He did that better than almost anybody.
It's all about redemption too. All his characters about redemption, whether it's being a divorce in Die Hard, or he always has a road to prove himself and to change. So
Or
much.
Sin City, where he's trying to
Yes.
protect Jessica Alba's character, and he's pushing himself through essentially a heart attack that he's having throughout the course of that seedy adaptation. He also, I thought, really tried to like push the envelope in terms of technology. I write about this in the book. When he teamed with Robert Rodriguez for the Sin City movies, he was really fascinated by the green screen process and how you could act around it, and he loved going over to like Video Village and seeing the end result of it against the green screen, and then seeing how Rodriguez was painting in this Frank Miller world. I love seeing him get really excited about that tech.
I did that junket, but no Bruce Willis. I remember that,
Oh,
but
gotcha.
everybody else. So now, me and you've been doing this for a long time, but I just started doing the junkets and became a film critic. I barely missed the Armageddon world premiere. And I hear that's like one of the greatest junkets of all time. And they had it at NASA. They had Aerosmith performing. I mean, I hear, so I don't know, were you around for Armageddon for that junket, or?
I was not. That was right around the time that I just started.
Yeah,
Like,
me
viewing
too.
stuff. Yeah, so I
And the
probably
old
was still
timers
a few.
talk about it all the time, it's like Armageddon, if Chuck the movie guy, he was there, and
Was he?
he would just tell me, he said, in his decades of doing this, that was the most incredible junket he ever did. And I can only imagine that. That's back when, Armageddon, it needs a junket that's big as life as that film, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, that was Michael Bay sort of at his peak, figuring out the type of bombast he could put into it. You go through that cast, in addition to Ben Affleck and Bruce Willis, obviously at the top. I think it's one of Billy Bob Thornton's best performances. You have Steve Buscemi and Michael Clark Duncan in the cast as well too. And yeah, just I think for a little while it was Bruce's highest grossing film, and then The Sixth Sense came along and sort of knocked it off.
Right. And, we have to mention, I've done a lot of press days in the last year or two, especially with COVID, of all the films that Bruce has been doing now. And this was before he announced his illness. And
Yeah.
people were like, what is he doing this for? Why is it? Well, we know now he was just trying to build up his net worth, before he knew he couldn't work anymore. And I don't see any shame in that whatsoever. I think I just talked to Mark Singer yesterday called Agent Recon, and the man's a legend, and so what? He's playing a soldier in this. I don't think there's any shame in taking a B movie or anything like that. It's like I support an actor in anything they ever do, but I don't like how people come out against fans that rebel about that. It's like, no, then now we know, then people kind of change their mind about what he was doing.
Without a doubt. I am a little bit surprised in the fact that like his net worth shouldn't be high enough. Like his net worth, how much more money does Bruce Willis actually need?
I know.
He's definitely one of the highest paid actors of all time. I don't think generations of family could spend the amount of money that he
Right.
probably should have. And I think genuinely he just enjoyed being on a set. I don't think he wanted to give up acting, or doing the parts that he was able to do. And when you go back and rewatch all those films, and I rewatched every single one of those direct-to-video films, you see like he's relegated to sitting at a desk behind a chair, and letting someone like a Frank Grillo, or the new younger action hero take the lead. And, granted, of course, I think he's better than that. I see these
Yeah.
stories that Quentin Tarantino, is prepping his 10th and final film, and he wanted to find a part for Bruce, just as a sort of symbolic way to give him one last role. People have been asking me, like, what would I love to see Bruce do? I kind of wish he got a chance to work with like the Coen brothers. I think he would have, in his prime, sunk his teeth into their type of dialogue and delivered, because he had comedic timing and can really nail a lot of stuff that they do. So I'm always going to say that I think he was better than that stuff, but I understand exactly why he was doing it.
He's a professor emeritus, in my opinion, now. So wherever he is in a movie, if he was sitting there, it's like, he doesn't have to prove himself, and just whatever decision he makes is fine with me. So,
Yeah, exactly.
All right, final question for today. You ready? Is Die Hard a Christmas movie or not? What's your opinion? You wrote the book. You're the authority on Bruce Willis and in cinema. What is your opinion on Die Hard? Is it a Christmas movie or not? I'm waiting to hear this.
It is absolutely 100% a Christmas movie.
Yes, of course.
I mean,
yes.
I think parts 1 and 2 are great Christmas movies. I watch each of them every year. But the first one specifically, like, just there's core things that it uses right down to Ode to Joy, being the main theme going through it. I can't hear Ode to Joy during the holiday season and not think about John McClane running barefoot across glass. I mean, it's just,
Yeah.
they are synonymous.
A
And so,
Christmas party. Ho ho ho! I have a gun now. I mean, how much more do we need? They're listening to Run DMC in the limo. It's like, yeah, it's like, what do you mean it's not a
exactly.
Christmas movie?
So it's a different type of Christmas movie, but it is
Right.
without a doubt a Christmas movie. More,
Yep.
more so than Home Alone, and some people call that a Christmas movie
Oh,
too.
of course it is. Yes. I'll tell you this real quick. One of my favorite moments when I first started out my career, I was with the movie guys, with David Neal. And we got a phone call one day from Fox and saying, yeah, we're setting up a screening for you here in Las Vegas. It's just you two. Tell nobody else. It's just you. And we're like, well, what's all the secrecy? We go there, hottest summer afternoon, and they showed Live Free or Die Hard. We could not believe we were the only ones that Fox chose to see it in Las Vegas. And we
Nice.
never forgot that, and that's also one of my all-time favorite Bruce Willis films too.
Yeah, I think that's a really great one. For someone that's trying to keep the Die Hard franchise going into part 4, it's a much better film than people give it credit for. I thought he was thoroughly engaged in that one as well, too. He wanted to find a modern way to bring John McClane into the next century. The less we say about part 5, the better. When John McClane goes to Russia, that one's not so good.
There's a part 5?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
no, there isn't. No, it stops at
No.
4.
Well, my friend, congratulations on a great book. I mean, I must have read 7 or 8 chapters. I'm still going through it, picking my favorite films and learning all kinds of stuff behind your research. And I hope you noticed I'm wearing an Avengers shirt for you today. So
Thank you very much. I
that's
love
just
it. I got
for
my
you.
Tony
So
Stark.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much for your time. Good luck with the book, and let's talk again soon, okay?
I appreciate it, Jeff. Talk soon.